Speaking of Amazon, how do they do on a Godin scale of 1 to 10 in marketing, if we want to call it that, or in building a great company or products that make people want to talk about?
So for the first 20 years, how many ads did they run? And can you remember any of them? The answer is almost none, and you can't, because the marketing was the product.
Right.
What you talked about was, can you believe I got this book that I've been looking for 20 years? Can you believe it came in one day? Can you believe it? Like, that is what he invested in. That was brilliant. I think that...
Was that because it was marketing, or because that's what he thought would make him better than the competitors?
That's what marketing is.
Okay. Stop thinking of it in this word that's been defined by something old.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Right? When Tony Hsieh spent millions of dollars on customer service to build Zappos, $1 billion shoe store. Can you believe a shoe store is worth $1 billion? That was a marketing choice. Instead of running ads, he spent it on customer service. The same thing.
Deliver wow.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you're saying, because wow gets talked about.
Exactly.
Wow, they returned my shoes even after 3 days, and I did this. Or look, they gave me this. And,
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I have a couple challenges with Amazon, because public companies that are growing tend to create toxic environments. And I don't think it's because anyone means poorly. I think it's because, and having worked at Yahoo, you're sitting in the executive suite and you are surrounded by 1,000 to 10,000 people who have stock options. Some of them have enough stock options that if the price of the stock goes up $4, they'll make $1 million, right? So now you got to take a decision. You're Cheryl or Mark or the guys at Yahoo or whatever company it is. You got to take a decision. And you know that it's going to cost the people around you millions of dollars, but it's the right thing to do. That's really hard. The stock market is greedy and selfish and short-sighted, and it leads to corporate destruction because companies miss opportunities. So Amazon has become an engine that I don't think is always aware of the impacts it's causing, where they could be leading instead. That racing to the bottom, the problem with that is you might win or come in second. But racing to the top is way more interesting. So how do you figure out how to pay the people who work in the warehouse ever more, not ever less? How do you figure out how to create an environment where your employees are challenged not to follow a manual, but to write a manual? And part of the challenge, so Amazon's culture is, I'm not talking about the cloud, but Amazon's retail culture is, we're a store that sells everything, which is the opposite of almost every other business, which is they're a store that sells something. That in every other business, to get on the end cap, to get on the cash register at Walmart, you have to please a buyer and the buyer's boss. They are putting their reputation at stake by promoting you. And so I was one of the people who persuaded Amazon to start publishing books, because they had everything that's hard about publishing. They just weren't doing the most useful part, which is picking authors and bringing their work to the world. And so when they finally decided to do it, they called my bluff. I had to go build an imprint with them. And what we discovered was that everything there is about, we sell everything. So they don't have a way to promote good stuff over bad stuff. The system does. It's just a system. And everyone who's working there is pedaling as fast as they can inside the system. Well, the problem with that is that, again, listening to mass causes the culture to shift more toward mass, when what we really want as participants in the culture is for the culture to shift toward better. And to do that, you need leadership. So Bloomingdale's led with fashion taste. Amazon isn't leading any of the things that they choose to sell. They're just this engine toward cheaper, deliverable quality by the old definition of quality, which means meeting spec. And in the short run, that benefits everybody because it saves everybody money and gets people what they need. But in the long run, you've abdicated something really important. And I think there's not a lot of point to having a culture if you're going to abdicate that. Taking responsibility, being able to say, here, I made this, that's something that it's important to me.
Will that become a problem for them in 10 years if they don't?
Well, I think it's already a problem for us.
Okay.
And Amazon, we always look at the titans of whatever is in the moment and say they're there forever now. No, that, car companies aren't there forever now, and Macy's and Bloomingdale's, and go down the list, not there forever now.
Right. Even Jeff said this won't be here forever.
Right. So, no, it won't be there forever. But I don't know if they're going to stumble because of this. I think it's already clear that our culture stumbles because of this. Because the long tail, as Chris Anderson has written, surfaces all of this juicy stuff that was used to be invisible. But also the culture likes the short head. And what's in the short head drives things. And if you get rid of the center, you're just left with a donut with everyone with their own thing. Sometimes we lose a sense of us. And I think that we're starting to feel that.
And Amazon promotes that. So the beauty is you get that book you can never find anywhere, but the downside is no one is connecting with each other about something. Like we used to talk about Jaws or Michael Jackson.
Or just let's try Harry Potter.
Right.
If Amazon had been dominant when J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, no one would have ever read that book. No one. It worked because independent booksellers forced children to read it. The right kid would walk into the store, the bookseller would walk right over to that kid and say, this. And it was only that action for months that made a difference. Whereas 50 Shades of Grey only happened because of Amazon. 50 Shades of Grey and the Kindle, because you could read it without anybody knowing you were reading it. And that's the two edges that I'm talking about.